Oh, okay. All right, we're set to go. So I'm set to go. Everyone should be, oh my God, who is that, Zach?
You've got mail.
He was my teacher.
No.
Bob, where are you?
That I first met him in a basket.
In the Nile River, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Everyone should be muted at this point if all goes well. And I'm just going to get started. Hello, my name is Stanley Davids, and I am incredibly grateful to this awesome gathering of people. It's just unbelievable. So far, 60 are in the room, and there are more coming. So this is just absolutely outstanding. I am so grateful to all of you for having joined us. And what we're going to be doing is participating in a journey. It's a journey to study. It's a journey to form a community. And there are some of you I don't know yet. And I really look forward over these 6 weeks to come to know all of you. We will have a separate email address so that when you write to that address, it'll be directly to me. Questions that you may have about Mussar, about the discussion. This group is just simply way too large to have what I would prefer, namely a freewheeling discussion. But I promise you, you send an email to that special email address, I will respond. We will be in touch with each other, and we will come to know each other that way. So the email address is Mussar, capital MUSSAR, at WBTLA, Wilshire Boulevard, Temple, Los Angeles, WBTLA.org. Okay? So it's Mussar, capital M, Mussar, MUSSAR, at WBTLA.org. So if in the process of doing our study together, it's now been put up official. See, I was right. Okay. We will get to know each other. I will answer your questions. I will respond to your objections. I'll do whatever. We will be in touch with each other over the course of this period. And I'm going for it. And do I sound excited? Well, truth be told, I'm excited. It's something happening in this gathering which I need to point out. We have a substantial group of people coming from University Synagogue into this Wilshire Boulevard structure. And it is actually one of the first times in which we will feel the benefit of the merger and all that's taking place. So if you're looking around and you see people on the webinar that you don't know, odds are they're from Wilshire. So find these people, get to know them, because they're going to be around. We're going to be around. And I think that is, oh my God, we're at 70. Okay, we're going to keep going. I'm not going to pass out. Everything's going to be fine. For this program, 6 weeks, study of Mussar to work, I have to do full disclosure. I selected the topic of Mussar for the most selfish reasons possible. I wanted to study and I wanted to learn more. I wanted to go in depth. No one called me. No one beat down the door. No one demanded it. I wanted to teach it. And it's kind of serendipity, if you will. Serendipity that it's moved forward this way. Why? Why serendipity? Because over the 3 months or so in which I have been preparing for this event and this teaching, our world has in many ways kind of fallen apart into little pieces. COVID, healthcare issues, economic disarray, rising rupture of our country's political and social fabric. All around us, people are saying, how do I find meaning here? How do I put my life together? How can I understand what's going on? People indicated by the men who signed up for this and the questions they were asking beforehand, people are looking for solutions to two tiny problems. How do I make sense out of our world? And how can I find a place of meaning for myself in this world? I strongly believe that if we are able to spend these 6 weeks together, 1 hour, we're going to be very tight, 1 hour, 6 weeks together, we're actually going to have some answers evolve out of our study of Mussar. There's a second element of full disclosure. I am not joining you unblemished. After having selected Mussar as a way of discovering meaning and purpose in our world, my wife and I both were blessed with COVID. And Risa's finishing her 3 weeks in hospital on Thursday. I got out last week. So for me and for us, this isn't academic. We are looking for a source of meaning in a very complicated world, meaning for our society and meaning for ourselves. Folks, we're going to try to figure out a little bit regarding human behavior. We want to begin to discuss with you what are the core values that motivate our lives. This study of Mussar, for me, and I suspect for a whole bunch of you, is not academic. Many of us have come here looking for a little bit of guidance as to how we should handle these tumultuous times, terrifying times. Okay, all that's introduction. Now I begin. My precious friend and teacher, Rabbi Dr. Tamara Ashkenazi from the Hebrew College, told me a story several weeks ago. I shared the story with you. Dr. Ashkenazi told me of an acquaintance of hers, a young acquaintance, who was writing her doctoral dissertation, and I hope you all get excited by this because it's wonderful. A doctoral dissertation about Freud, Heidegger, and death. Talk about really exciting topic. So she was writing about Freud, Heidegger, and death. And then this young scholar was diagnosed with a very severe neurological disease that 100% is eventually going to kill her. So there she is, writing theoretically about death, and she finds out that she's dying. The diagnosis led her to turn the focus of her life's work absolutely around. This young woman decided that she wanted to study the human capacity for joy in the face of death. she took the theme. It was going to be about death, but she wanted to drill down into how one can find happiness in such a setting in which people are dying. Why do I tell the story? We are all living confronting the specter of COVID. We are all living facing the specter of societal upheaval. Here's the point. The questions that we will be looking at for 6 weeks are, what does the core of Jewish teachings have to say to us now in this world at this moment? Because if Jewish tradition has little of significance to say to us right now in this world under these circumstances, then we have every right to ask ourselves, what value does Jewish tradition have at all? If our Judaism can't help us walk through this darkness and come out intact on the other side, then what's the point of Jewish tradition? To maintain things just because they always have been? I don't think so. How does Mussar, an expression of Jewish tradition, help us face the time that we are in and the real life challenges that we are confronting? How can Mussar help us to live successfully under the cloud which covers so much of our lives today? But please hear me. I'm not going to do political analysis. I'm not going to talk about last Wednesday. I'm not going to talk about the weird nurses I met in the hospital when I was trying to survive. No. They set the stage. We are not going to be talking about contemporary issues. We are not going to be talking about the Magefa. By the way, that's a good word. Magefa. That's one of the things we're going to be doing here. Magefa is a plague. It's a plague. So we're not going to be talking about the plague. We're not going to be talking about last Wednesday. We're going to be talking about how does Mussar, as an aspect of Jewish tradition, give us a curriculum for living, for mastering the most important segments of our lives. That's my hope. That's my intention. That's why I'm here. And I hope that's why you're here as well. And again, we'll be communicating fine. Process. 6 weeks, I can do that. Or 6 weeks. 6 weeks of study from 12 to 1 in which you will eat lunch and will be engaging. No homework. Newcomers always welcome. You bring people in the second week, the third week, fine. There will be no final exam. Secondly, or thirdly, or fifthly, whether you want it or not, I don't do mindfulness. I'm not here to train in meditation or anything like that. Maybe this is the first important thing I'm going to say today. I am going to be walking with you as we try to open our eyes to a different kind of Torah in Judaism. Did you hear what I said? There isn't just one Torah in Judaism. There is not. There is the Torah of the Torah, 5 books of Moses, Pentateuch, Chumash. We know that. That's Torah, Genesis, Deuteronomy. Yeah, that's one Torah. But friends, I hope we're all going to be friends. The Torah of the rabbis is not the Torah of the Chumash, of the Torah. When we study the rabbis and we study the teachings of the rabbis, we are in fact encountering and acquiring another Torah within Jewish tradition. More. In the Middle Ages, in the period of the great commentators, where they were talking about the Rashi and the Ibn Ezra, or Maimonides, Nachmanides, etc., the Torah of those philosophers is not the Torah of the rabbis, is not the Torah of the 5 books of Moses. The plural of Torah is Torot. Actually, that's real. I didn't make it up. Torot. There are different Torahs in Judaism. The Torah of the Torah, the Torah of the rabbis, the Torah of the philosophers, the Torah of the commentators, the Torah of the Enlightenment, the Torah of Hasidism. There are many Torot, and it's actually a bit of a mistake to try to conflate all of those Torot as if they represent the same thing. They don't. My claim is that there is a Torah of Mussar. There is a Torah of encountering Jewish ethics from a deeply Jewish base. And the Torah of Mussar is not the same as the Torah of the 5 books, of the rabbis, of the philosophers, commentators, Enlightenment, Hasidim, and so forth. I hope that's upsetting to you. Have I bothered you? I hope so, because we don't normally hear that. Torah tziva lanu Moshe. We have one Torah. Torah is it. Torah is the way we go. Well, the fact of the matter is, the Torah of Mussar differs from all of the others. The Torah of Mussar is a unique phenomenon, and it's different. It is different, but it's still Torah. Is it okay if I hope that our introductory study of Torah, of the Torah of Mussar, will actually have a positive impact on your lives, on my life, the lives of your families? I don't know how it's going to go for you. I don't know how it's going to work. But I hope that you will leave these 6 weeks much better informed about this particular Torah of the Jewish people, the Torah of Mussar. Perhaps as we make our journey together, and please, I'm really there into journey. As we make our journey together, we will learn some basics that we'll be able to absorb into our lives. Certainly by the end of this session, and then for the next 5, we will be focused on very specific midot and qualities and aspects of the Jewish soul. And we're going to talk about how we can activate and implement those teachings. So maybe, I hope, maybe you'll discover useful tools. maybe you'll find some tools in our work together that are authentically Jewish tools. Maybe, this I really hope, maybe you will discover tools that will help you deal with the tensions and anxieties of this very difficult period. I am not going to try to transform you. I can't even transform myself. How can I try to transform you? All that I hope to be able to do in this 6 weeks is to open new windows of possibility. It's a process. It will take our 5 more weeks, six weeks, including today. And it's going to take a lot more than that. We are opening windows of possibility. And you know what? In a time like this, that's pretty exciting. I'd like to thank Rabbi Susan Nanis for trusting me with this assignment and for having taken over my life for the last 3 months as I've worked to prepare to be with you. I'd like to thank Don Levy and Hannah Gold for IT. Actually, for Don, it's for psychological support. He is a great hand holder. Okay, I said my name is Stanley Davids. I'm a rabbi, served congregations for a whole bunch of years. I write books, I lecture, I teach, but what I am not is a scholar of Mussar. I am not a master of Mussar. I am not a fully committed practitioner of Mussar. What am I doing here? I have been studying Mussar intensively for many months. I have been reading and consulting and talking and learning. And full honesty, I have grown excited by what I've been discovering. I want to share that with you, knowing that all that we're doing is taking opening steps into the Torah of Mussar. So let me show you, show and tell. The key book that I would like to recommend to everyone is this book, Everyday Holiness by Alan Marinas. This is the core foundational text. Everyone says, oh, you're teaching Mussar. Have you done the Marinas? Yeah, I read it. Okay, you got to have this, otherwise people won't talk with you. Then this book is the Mussar Torah commentary published by the Central Conference of American Rabbis. It is an effort to take every one of the weekly Torah portions and apply a Mussar teaching to it. Now, do you know that I spoke today with the CCAR Press and told them that I'm going to be meeting with you? Do you know that the CCAR Press was really happy to learn that, so that I got an email today? Here's what it says. Dear Rabbi Davids, that's addressed to me personally. I hope you are well. We have set up a promo code for 20% off the Mussar Torah commentary, and the discount is available till January 31st. So if you go to mussar.ccarpress.org, the promo code is Mussar20. You're going to get 20% off. And what will I get out of it? Garnished. But it's a good way to get the book read and purchased. And I think that's pretty nice. I think it's pretty nice. Do you know what the word vidui means? Vidui? It's a confession. I want to confess. Because I am new into this discipline, I am going to misrepresent some things. I'm going to say some things which true scholars, masters of Mussar, will curse me for having said inappropriately. Here's the good news. I was ordained in 1965. Please don't count the number out loud. I was ordained in 1965. It is sadly true that every once in a while I misrepresent some aspect of Jewish tradition in all of my teaching and all of my writing. I don't mean to. It does happen. I am still learning. Literally now, still learning. And I will make mistakes, and I will try to correct them. Some of you are novices along the road. You're just meeting the Torah of Mussar for the first time. You probably won't pick up on any of the mistakes that I might make. Some of you have already climbed several rungs on the Mussar ladder. And first of all, I am just deeply grateful that you've joined us. I'm humbly grateful to be studying with you. When you note that I have misstated, or what is the technical term? Screwed up, you'll send me a note. You send me an email. And I will bring your correction to the next class. It's the way I've always operated. I try to teach the best that I can. I know that I'm not perfect. I am comfortable with not being perfect. I'm sorry that my wife is listening to this now. She's on our, Lisa, it's true. I am not perfect. I admit it. But don't throw that at me. Another big teaching coming your way out of Mussar. We're going to be talking next time about anava, humility, as one of the great guiding principles of Mussar. In the context of humility, there is a statement. Please don't occupy too much space. Think about that for a bit. Mussar teaching. Try not to occupy too much space. What does that mean? We got 77 people online right now. All of us want to teach and to learn. Mussar says, the first step in learning is shrinking yourself. Don't try to occupy too much space. In a conversation, when you want to have a serious conversation with somebody, maybe over something you disagree with, make room for the other person, Mussar says. Make room to hear and to understand. Do you ever meet people who, when they're in the middle of a serious conversation, a disagreement, people really disagreeing, that the other person is sitting there not listening to a word you're saying because all that they want to do is to say what they've been prepared to say? Mussar says, don't occupy too much space. give space to the person you want to speak with, the person you want to disagree with. Give space. Pull yourself back in. Hebrew refers to that as tzimtzum. It's a self-contraction. Do it. Do it. And people will be able to work with you and study with you. Okay, last point in introduction. Boy, that only took forever. You are going to be frustrated. I will be too. I promise you that I'll be frustrated as well. As I started digging into Mussar, it is vast. There's so much to learn, so much to absorb. And just because I said don't occupy too much space doesn't mean that just automatically becomes a part of your persona. It's not that way. It's going to be frustrating. So much to absorb, and our time together is so limited. We won't cover everything in our journey to the Torah of Mussar. It is not my goal. Maybe it was your goal. So there's where the frustration comes in. We're going to have 6 times, 6 1 hours. We are taking the first steps together on what Mussar calls a soul journey, S-O-U-L, soul. We're taking a soul journey together. The important thing is a growing understanding of the Torah of Mussar can help us navigate real world challenges. Remember the 2 challenges? The challenge of a society that's kind of a mess right now, and the challenge of our trying to figure out, how do we live? Who are we? How do we handle our values? So it's going to be that kind of stuff. Okay, now I am going to do something which terrifies me. I am going to ask you a question. Terrifies me because you have to understand, when I confront technology, and this is what Don was trying to help you with, I start hyperventilating. So I'm going to do the best I can, and you're going to be kind. When you hear the word Mussar, which means ethics, what comes to mind? We have a chat thing here. I'm sure it's not meant to be called a chat thing. Oh, okay, so here, someone's from Chicago. Someone says, I'm a high school senior from Miami and I'm taking notes. Great. Got the Mussar thing. Welcome to University Synagogue students from people who are in the Wilshire Boulevard. That's nice. Would the Haredim agree that there are many Torot? And Steve Miller, who asked that question, actually, the way I phrased it, I think they would agree. This is not, I know they think I'm mainly an Apikoros who has no religious roots whatsoever. I'm a Reformed Jew. Okay. Having said that, no, they wouldn't disagree. They would say, yeah, there is a Torah of Mussar. They probably would disagree strongly with my saying that the philosopher and so forth have different Torahs. So they'll argue. In the chat function, what does ethics mean to you? So take a couple of minutes, put it right in there. Okay, what do I see? Ethics, right thoughts, right action, discipline. From Minneapolis, hi Minneapolis, the parameters by which we conduct ourselves. our relationship to others, how we react to others who don't agree with us. Wow, okay. Ethics, practicing living by your ideals. This is good. This stuff is working. Oh my God. Doing the right thing no matter what. That's great. So anyone else have anything else they want to throw into what? Oh boy, that just moral treatment of others, a framework for behavior. This is going way too fast. From Ikar, our values and ways of behavior, doing the right thing when no one is watching. That's challenging. Values predominate over expediency. Beautiful, beautiful. Values predominate over expediency or selfish desires. Yes. How we treat others, thanks, Lynn, and ourselves. Kindness. The criteria of morality. You folks are great. Wow. The study of right and wrong behavior. Empathy. Oh boy, that's a big discussion. Empathy. I'm not going to raise it. It just raises all kinds of questions for me. Okay. The study of right or wrong versus right versus wrong. Let's stop. You did great. You did great. It worked. I am now no longer hyperventilating. That's good. Now, next question. So we can do it participation, even though there are, what is this here? Yeah, we're over 77 people. Okay, now, where do Jewish ethics come from? That's the next question into the chat. Where do Jewish ethics come from? Whoop, the chat is empty. So where do Jewish ethics come from? Gonna pause. What do you think? God. Okay? God. God was said affirmatively, the Talmud with a question mark. Torah, family, our upbringing. Please mention Pirkei Avot. Actually, it was the first item on my program here. Kehila, meaning that the community. Ethics flows from the community. Communal study, the desire to be in the image of God. God in the Ten Commandments and Torah. Oh, another vote for Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot is winning. That's good. We have lots of good stuff there. The concept, ethics flows from Tikkun Olam. Community, family, God. You folks are really jumping in. I'm sorry for being excited, but I'm happy. From community, Talmud, when the rabbis discuss Torah. Yes, 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 yes. Anyone want to throw in Leviticus chapter 19? Do you remember how that one starts? Leviticus chapter 19. Do you know how that one starts? Give me a key word. Someone has to guide us. It doesn't just happen. Yes, yes. How does Leviticus chapter 19 begin as a statement of the origin of ethics? 10 seconds. Leviticus 19. 5 seconds. Leviticus 19. Okay, it is Kadoshim Tihiyu Ki Kadosh Ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. So the ethical base in Leviticus 19 is imitation of God. The highest behaviors we can ascribe to God. That's good. And what about prophets? What about the prophets? Are they a source of ethics for us? Are they a source? I sure hope so. And I think so. And I think so. Okay. 10 Commandments, and I get a yes. Devorah, I'm not sure what you said yes to, but anyone who says yes to me is deeply appreciated. Okay, we're going to stop. Really, you did great. Now, we are going to ask ourselves one last question before I have a surprise for you. Can Reform Jews create a moral base for their lives on Mussar when traditionally Mussar affirms the literal revelation of Torah? Let's be clear about this. In the traditional format of Mussar, we have a strong belief that everything in the Mussar text flows directly from a revealed Torah. There are some people who assert that all Reform Jews can get out of Mussar is Mussar light, because we do not assert the literal revelation of Torah. How do you feel about that? Do you want to enter something into the chat about that just a bit before we take a break? Can Reform Jews authentically access Mussar even though we do not affirm literal revelation? Can we take the Torah of Mussar? I got a meh. Trying to figure out, I don't know enough to have an opinion, but I got one meh from Martin. I have to figure out what that means here. I need to know enough about Mussar to make a decision. Okay, that's good. That's fine. We got that. Don, are you with me? Are you there,
Yes,
Don?
I am. Yes, I am.
Don, you are there. There is the man in the magic booth. Don, I would like to magically conclude this hour with a video. Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
May we do that? And
Absolutely.
know that when the video concludes, that will conclude our session today. I am asking you to write to me, comment, correct, and let's get to know each other better. Don, you know the person who made this, right?
Tiffany Schlane. Yes.
What can you tell us about her?
Well, she was the first person who I heard talk about, basically a technology Shabbat, and really not just doing our traditional Shabbat, but really tuning the importance of tuning out. And she's kind of a wonderful lady who is also very much about character. She has a whole fall program or a whole program designed to, kind of teach people how to be a mensch.
How to be a mensch. Don, that sounds like the good title for a video.
And it sure is.
Okay, let's go for it.
And while we're here, James Ruxin was asking for my email. The best is communications@wbtla.org, and I'll put it in the chat.
You got that, Jim? Okay, great.
All right.
Roll 'em.
All right.
And I'll see you all next week, 12 o'clock.
Great job, Stanley.
What is this? I'm not hearing anything.
Let's see.
You might have left.
The world is becoming more and more 24/7. More distractions, more forces coming at us trying to influence us. And as I love the word mensch. Just like a lot of Yiddish, there isn't an exact translation that
See you guys
suffices,
next
but
week.
it means doing the right thing, being a good person, thinking of yourself in the context of the bigger picture. And I think as the world is becoming more and more 24/7, more distractions, more forces coming at us trying to influence us, and as the world problems are getting more complicated, we need more mensches. And then about a year ago, I learned that there's this huge resurgence happening right now, all around these ancient insights and ideas and traditions that are so relevant today because they're all about how to be more of a mensch.
A mensch is a lady or gent who would help any friend at the soonest request. And they gladly accept lipstick stains on her cheeks from the kisses that Bubby gives best.
A mensch.
A mensch.
My definition of being a mensch.
See, a mensch holds the door and takes part in the horror while giving out mazzles with ease.
Person who does good deeds when other people aren't looking.
And a mensch wipes the floor if you spill all your borscht and gesundheit at everyone's sneeze.
People that have good standards, ethical standards.
Now, in some ways, my team and I have been studying what I will call here menschiology for a while. We just didn't realize it. We had made this film called The Science of Character about this fascinating research that identified universal virtues that people across cultures and history agree lead to a good life. And that there are 24 character strengths that, when practiced, could lead to those virtues. And after the film premiered, all these Jewish educators and rabbis were like, "This is great, but why didn't you mention Mussar?" And I was like, "Mus what?" I felt like such a bad Jew. But apparently, Mussar is like this ancient Jewish science of character. So if the science proves we can develop who we are, Mussar offers the tools to help you do that. And these tools can apply to anyone, religious to atheist, Jewish or not. I mean, I'm not religious, but I love the traditions, the questioning, the humor, the holidays that are like, "They failed to kill us, let's eat." So perhaps that explains why I didn't know about Mussar. But then I discovered some of my favorite thinkers around character were Jews, and they didn't mention Mussar either. Now, they weren't professional Jews, but still, I was hooked. I had to find out more about Mussar. It turns out it has this amazing history. The ideas go as far back as the Bible, but really started to take shape in the 10th and 11th centuries, when Jewish philosophers started cherry-picking the best ideas from all of Jewish wisdom about living with meaning and purpose. Rav Sayadia, for example, it's pronounced Rav Sadia. Got it, thanks. Published a chapter called How a Person Ought to Behave in the World. By the way, figuring out which cherries to put on the tree with my spectacular cadre of rabbis was very Talmudic. And Rabbi Baha ibn Pequada,
That's Bachya ibn Pekuda.
wrote Duties of the Heart, the first systematic overview of Jewish ethics. 900 years later, as the Jews of Europe were being tormented by pogroms, and many were considering converting or assimilating, a Lithuanian rabbi, Yisrael Salanter, looked through the growing collection around living an ethical, meaningful life and published rituals and practices that would help people fulfill that path. He also republished some of the classics and turned Mussar into a movement. The Mussar movement thrived for many decades. People lived it. Working on themselves was part of the language and culture. Until the Holocaust. The Mussar movement slowed and almost disappeared. Until now, as we plow through the 21st century, Mussar is coming back. Right at the same time that similar conversations around character are emerging from all sectors of society. So in Mussar's framework, instead of character strengths, Mussar calls these qualities midot. And we're each made up of dozens, if not hundreds of midot. But with the help of a few rabbis, we fit them nicely into our periodic table. And now I'm sounding like a rabbi, but I'm definitely not. These midot aren't necessarily good or bad. They're all important parts of who we are. Even qualities like envy. Some envy can motivate you to work harder. Or impatience. Sometimes in the face of injustice, you need more impatience. It's not about ridding yourself of any of these qualities, because that would be virtually impossible. Mussar is about creating rituals and practices that help you better control or develop different qualities. For example, say you want to increase your sense of gratitude, which there's so much research today saying that if you feel more grateful, you're going to be healthier, you're going to have more mental strength, and you're going to sleep better. So this practice on gratitude is based on the Jewish tradition of 100 blessings a day. My good friend Amichai first taught me about it.
Every day, one gets to say 100 blessings.
Everything from waking up first thing in the morning, to the big moments, to all the little moments.
But also when you go to the bathroom. That's the Jewish way, 100 blessings every day. Do I say them? I try.
And I love this part. At the end of the day, as you're going to sleep, instead of looking at your screen, close your eyes and think about all those moments, all those things you're grateful for. Or another classic Mussar practice is from Maimonides. Instead of giving, let's say, $100 to one organization or person, every day you would give $1 to a different person who needs it for 100 days. So it's working on the muscle of generosity, so over time you will be more generous to others. Regardless of how you do it, this type of repetition is key to Mussar. Or as the yogis will tell you, it's all about the practice. Even neuroscience now proves that focus and repetition strengthen pathways in the brain to make the action easier over time. So one way people do this is to choose a particular quality and focus on it for a season at a time, or a month, or a week. Like Benjamin Franklin, he created a chart of 13 virtues and focused on each one for a week at a time. He'd mark every time he faulted and tracked his progress over 50 years. And no, he's not Jewish, if you're wondering. He was not Franklin's son. Franklininsky.
Benjamin Franklin.
But I did hear that his ideas had some influence on Mussar practices, so an honorary Jew. While for Franklin this was an individual practice, Mussar also suggests that doing a practice with someone else or a group really helps. And apparently, I've been doing a practice with a group and I didn't even know it. Several years ago, I was starting to feel like life was happening too fast. Like there wasn't a moment to be present. So my family and I reimagined the weekly Shabbat ritual in a way that would speak to those needs. We decided to turn off all screens for 24 hours every week. And doing this for the past 5 years has had such an incredible impact on us. I think that's why I've been so excited to learn about all these other practices I can try. They're all about reminding us to think of ourselves in the context of the bigger picture. Alan Marinis, the founder of the Mussar Institute, writes a lot about humility. He's known, along with Rabbi Ira Stone, to be responsible for the modern Mussar movement. So Marinis writes, humility is limiting oneself to an appropriate amount of space while leaving room for others, which is something I think about a lot and wrestle with. I feel like as a woman, women were left off of so many history books for their contributions. So on the one hand, I feel like it's my duty to represent, but I also don't want to take up too much space. So whenever I do something public, I have things I do to try to keep it in check. Okay, that's not actually what I do for my practice, but you could. But there is one humility practice you could start the next time you're in a group setting. If you're more of a vocal person like me, try to let everyone else speak before you. And if you're more of a quiet person, try to be the first one to speak. There's a powerful Jewish story about the relationship between humility and courage. Each person carries 2 notes, one in each pocket. One note says, "The whole entire world was made for me." And the other note says, "I am only dust and ashes." So basically knowing when to summon up courage and when to be humble. And here's perhaps my favorite part of Mussar. You create your own path. I like to think of it as code, your own personal mensch code, looking at your patterns and creating your own system of practices that works for you. It's like we're each the captain of our own small sailboats, wrestling with all these different elements within us and around us. And we have to keep reading the wind and deciding when to pull in the sails and when to let them out and when to change directions. And there are always going to be things we have no control over, unforeseen obstacles, or even how long the ride is going to be. But we can adjust the sails. So as the world needs more mensches, and we're all responsible for our own path, we need to ask ourselves, what qualities do I want to work on? What kind of person do I want to be?
Someone who dedicates their time to do good.
Una persona que quiere ver a todo el mundo feliz.
Someone who's honest
And is loyal to their friends.
Someone who shows gratitude and shows good honor.
They respect their parents, they have good posture, I guess.
Loving to others.
A generous person to everyone they meet.
He is really nice.
Someone who puts others before themselves.
And is very often righteous.
So what do we need to do to get there?
As my mother used to say, a mensch is a mensch.
Oh, hey, you could be a mensch too. I said, hey, you could be a mensch too. Hey, you could be a mensch too. I said, hey, you could be a mensch too. All I wish is for menschiness. I said, all I want in life is your menschiness. Oh, all I wish is for menschiness. I said, all I wish.
Okay, we're ending for today. Please be in touch. I don't care if you enjoyed yourself. I enjoyed myself. So that, I guess, is a start. Let's be in touch. Let us hear from you. And thank you very, very much. Next week, Tuesday at noon Pacific. Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye.
I thought that was great.
It was too.
Of course it was.
We got a tremendous number of people. watching.
77 people. Did you hear that?
Right, sure. Yes.
I wonder